Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Peter Abraham. I'm a registered nurse with experience in cardiology, long-term care with rehab, and more extensively in hospice. In this channel, we talk about how to be resilient in the face of life storms. If you're like me and has worked in a field that involved a lot of death and dying or the potential thereof, uh, resilience is a very necessary skill, one that you don't have to start off with, but you should be building on over time. And even if you're not in hospice, if you work in healthcare, if you work in any field where you have a lot of human interaction, it can be very helpful to have what's referred to as a thick skin, to be able to have the storms roll off your back versus break your back. And so in this channel, we talk about how to build resilience, talk a lot about gratitude. Today's topic is going to be forgiveness along with gratitude. Also in this channel, we talk about book writing. I am a book author. I have written over 40 hospice books for hospice nurses, for hospice caregivers, as well as for caregivers of loved ones with dementia. So sometimes we'll have conversations about what I'm writing and how I'm hoping that it'll be a blessing to you who's watching or to other people who read the books. And I'm grateful for everyone who watches and reads. Uh, in similar topics of the field, such as grief, both anticipatory and after the fact. If you're new to this channel, welcome. Thank you for visiting. If you like what you're watching and hearing, please like below. If you want to see more of these type of video discussions, I typically publish twice a week. It's usually on a Wednesday, Friday, but it can vary a little bit here and there, but it's usually twice. Please subscribe. If you have any questions, you just want to say hello, comment down below. I don't mind, just as an FYI, maybe you have an opposing point of view and you don't want to confront. Well, number one, I probably couldn't beat up a fly. I'm a geek. I'm more of a pacifist. Not that I wouldn't defend myself, so I wouldn't say I'm a pure pacifist. I would fight if I had to, but I prefer not. But if you have an opposing point of view, let's discuss it as adults, and maybe there's middle ground. Um, anyway, moving forward, I like to start off every episode, what am I grateful for? Because I feel that if we can find areas of gratitude, that builds resilience. It's very hard to hate on somebody if you're trying to love not only them, but those around them and those around you. So to me, the more that you're filled with love, the more that you're filled with gratitude, the more resilient you will be. So looking over, as we come, this is the last day of February, the last February 28th. There's so many things I'm grateful for. My wife and I moved to central Kentucky towards the end of last year. She actually thought I would be the first one to get a part-time job being a registered nurse in the healthcare shortage, but she beat me to it. The first Monday in February, she started working part-time about 20 hours a week, and she's learning and growing, and she got her second paycheck, and just on her second paycheck, she got a small raise. And she actually was like, I have to check with the boss because maybe this was a typo by the it wasn't a huge amount, but my wife and I are very similar that we always want to do the right thing by the right for everybody. And so she just wanted to make sure that this wouldn't cause a problem if it was a typo. Did we have to pay the money back? It would have only been a few dollars, but every dollar counts, right? And I'm still looking for part-time work. I resubmitted my application, my resume, my cover letter, along with an email, which is a type of cover letter, to the Human Resource Director at Hospice Care Plus out of Richmond, looking for anything day shift, part-time, 8 hours or less. I'd even do, 4 days a week. I'd consider more as long as it's 8 hours or less. Right now, they're just looking for 12 hours or less. Part of a side note, part of my frustration point, not with Hospice Care Plus, but healthcare in general. For the last few years, oh, we have such a shortage, but then they want to stick to their guns that it has to be 12-hour shifts. It has to be the shift that they structure versus looking. There's people like me that if you did, let's say, a 10-hour shift 4 days a week, yes, that's 40 hours. It's not pure part-time, but I do that. I just am not in a position to do 5 days a week where it could be more than 40 hours a week. Mainly because I'm writing books and I actually want to get out there and enjoy life. Before I ramble, because if any of you watch, yes, I can go on rabbit trails. So that's it. I'm grateful for my wife. But as we come to a close of February 2028, I was sharing this morning. I've been going for the past couple Fridays to several of us men from a local church get together at a local coffee shop, and we might buy coffee or a drink or breakfast. So yes, we're supporting local businesses. And February 28th, yes, I'm shopping local. Sorry for those who are trying to do a boycott, but I want to support local. So several of us got together, and I was sharing my gratitude is that last June I was unexpectedly terminated from a job that I love. I love being a hospice nurse. I adore being a hospice nurse. And I was let go. And while I highly suspect it was because I answered truthfully that a very young patient with glioblastoma, a very rare brain cancer, a family member asked why would this very healthy person would ride motorcycle, like muscles and everything else. Why would they get this very rare disease? And I said that one of the doctors I know locally, face to face, no. This is not internet. This is not YouTube. This is not conspiracy theory. One of the local doctors, Dr. Patrick Gilhole, shared at a previous hospice agency, but same county, face to face to the entire team, nurses and social workers. He believes that the rapid rare cancers that we're seeing explode across not just the county that I came from in Pennsylvania, but throughout the world, is due to a certain injectable product that we can't mention in certain areas like YouTube. And I answer truthfully. Nursing is supposed to be the most honest profession on the planet. What? I'm going to lie? I'm going to do like one of the former White House speakers and let's circle back to that? No. They're a human being asking a direct question. I strongly believe what the doctor told me, and he's not the only doctor screaming out loud. This is because of the boosters and other injectables with 3 letters, or is it 4? Oh my word, 4 letters. I'm horrible with that. So, yes. So I strongly suspect it was that because shortly after that I became under scrutiny, but whether it's that because I'm heading to 62, which I'll be 62 later this year, or was it because the exact same day I was let go, my lung cancer patient was begging to be knocked out and just kept in an unconscious state until she passed away. That's palliative sedation. It is legal in all 50 states. And I really, really should have all my books lined up in order. And it is not sticking out for me. Yes, palliative sedation. It is legal in all 50 states. And by the way, the book wasn't written at that time. And I performed that procedure multiple times. And after I got the patient, that's what they wanted, educated on it's not euthanizing, but you do die faster because when you're sedated to that extreme, you cannot eat and drink. Daughter, the power of attorney was okay. All the staff, the med techs, the aides, and the nurses at the assisted living were okay. The director of nursing, a fellow follower of Christ Jesus, was okay. And I shared with everybody, I'm not going to ask the doctor until I get everybody's buy-in. And I was on hold from the director of nursing who, while okay with it, stated she needed to go to upper management above her with the Harrisburg corporate. Are they okay? But shortly after sending a secure email to our team, this is what the patient wants. Here's where all the check boxes are. I'm not going to ask the doctor, but we're going to have to work. It takes a village. We're going to have to work together. Seconds after I get my manager calls me screaming her literal head off. I've gone too far. We don't do that. Need to come in for a 3 o'clock meeting, and I had a sinking feeling. So I went through the rest of my day. I did a recertification and some other visits and went in and was told I'm terminated. So it wasn't until July of last year that after getting through that wham, that shock of like, are you kidding me? Like if there was supposed to be a rule of don't tell people about XYZ, then tell the workers. Don't have unspoken rules as if we're supposed to guess. And I was able to actually collect unemployment. Terminated with cause, but I was able to collect unemployment because the unemployment investigator said that while Pennsylvania's an at-will unemployment state, something's fishy here, something's not right here, and sided with me so I could collect. So I'm grateful for that. That's last year. But after I collected my wits, so to speak, of my head spinning, God, what now? How could I be used in a way to help people? And so I started writing books, with my first one being this book in July of last year. And July of last year, I think it was between 70 and 80 copies sold. Now that's small beans for a brand new author. It was big for me, but just to put it in the scheme of things, I'm not J.K. Rowling. I'm not Dean Kuntz. I'm not Stephen King. I'm not anybody that if you said my name, Peter Abraham's an author, who the heck is he? So that's not a lot of books, but for me it was huge. And with the exception of one month, and I apologize, I don't have this memorized. My short-term memory is like this. But yeah, that was July. August was more. September, October, one of the months dipped a little bit, but every month was big. Well, here in late December, very early January, Dr. Andy mentioned this book, Mastering Hospice Eligibility. This is a book that looks on how do we as hospitalists, when we go to admit a patient, it's not just a doctor. We have to gather the appropriate information. We're the ones on the field. We're the shoes on the floor. The doctor's not there. We're calling the doctor on the telephone, on our cell phones. Dr. So-and-so, I have a 78-year-old lung cancer patient, blah, 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 blah. And there's a way to present your case to almost guarantee the patient will be on hospice. And one area when I say will be, I wish we lived in a world of fine print. I would hope that there's no fraud and abuse. I cannot stand fraud and abuse. And I've actually worked for an agency that I threatened that if they didn't fix a certain issue that it was caused by another nurse that I believe was an unintentional mistake, I was going to call the compliance office and get Medicare involved, etc. Because we want to admit correctly, because and the hospice agency that I told this to, they did the right thing. Not only did they do the right thing, they went above and beyond. They worked with the family that was on service that shouldn't have been, the patient, and said that for the next 2 weeks they were going to continue doing the visits, the medications, and everything else. No one's billed. They're paying I was a nurse going out day to day. I wasn't the admitting nurse, but I caught an issue where the admitting nurse said the patient was Alzheimer's disease, FAST-7A, the minimum requirement for Alzheimer's. The FAST scale, for anyone nurse watching this, it is linear and you do not skip steps. Never skip a step. If it's Alzheimer's is the diagnosis, the steps must be linear. If they have, they're bedbound, they're FAST-7C, which would be bedbound. Well, if they're bedbound and they're still able to hold an intelligent conversation with you, then they're in their sixes or less. They're not 7C. You didn't jump past several stages just because they fit a line item you think is the right line item. So so when I say almost guarantees somebody getting on, I'm not saying to do the wrong thing, but the part of the issue is that in hospice, most of us who are trained, we follow somebody for less than a week or two, and then you're on your own. So unless you come in with oodles of experience, you're going out there typically on your first admission visit. You might do one or two admission visits with another nurse, but that's for that case. What about all these other disease processes? What if they have sepsis? What if they have a hip fracture? Hip fracture and sepsis, by the way, are not as in the local coverage determinations. So this is where, yes, I'm biased. This is where this book excels because it goes over how do you put on that critical thinking hack that if they don't have anything that's not in the local coverage determinations, that you could have the appropriate information to present to the doctor, that if you have the information, it's valid, it's truthful. And they should be on hospice, that you can get them on hospice. So Dr. Andy mentioned this at the end of December, beginning of January. In January, the previous highest book sales for a month was 270, 271, 272, maybe 273. And that's a lot, by the way, compared to the 81. And for those, what does orders and sales like, royalties look like? Close to 300 books is in the $2,000 range for royalties. That's before taxes. You still have to pay taxes on that. And it's taxes ordinary income, which means high taxes, not low taxes. But January 31st, when I did all the, February 1st, I'm looking at what sold in January, it was 510. And I thought, that's never going to happen again. 510, which was 4,100 in royalties. That's not going to happen again. Who am I? Again, I'm not Stephen King. I'm not any of these famous authors, and I know Stephen King is fiction. But I'm not these famous authors. And February started off slow. Ramping up compared to other months. Other months were 0 to 3, and then when I look at by the end of the day, February was might be ending the day at 7. Well, last night I went to bed. There was 19 books sold last night, and I got up this morning for the breakfast, and I go and I look. 3 books sold so far, and it's just a little bit after 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then I click on yesterday. And I'm glad I was sitting down. 86 books. 61 of these. 10 of the new hospice conditions of participation. I didn't order the author copy yet. I'll be ordering that this weekend, and it takes 2 to 3 weeks to get it in. And a number of the other books. And then month to date, 5, as of now, as of this recording, it could be more by midnight tonight, 560. God, don't put limits on God. Don't put limits on God. And I'm going to tell you who are watching what I told one of the men at the men's breakfast, Paul, this morning. He's considering writing a book. I don't know if it's going to be on coaching. He does coaching. Or if it's going to be on some other area of his life. He was sharing when I first met him, maybe 2 Fridays ago, I don't have enough reach. I don't have enough connections on LinkedIn. I don't have enough followers on his podcast. He doesn't have enough customer base. Do we control that? Or does God? I told Paul, I don't have my master's degree. One of the gentlemen at the breakfast was saying he has 2 master's degrees. He has an MBA, is one of the 2. I have my BSN, for which I'm grateful. But I didn't know what God would do with this, and wham! I don't know what March brings, because as I told Paul, some of the books that I write are time sensitive. Oh my word! I'm sorry I made a mess with all my books. This needs to be implemented by hospice providers. And I'm not saying the book, Hope, from the CMS. The Hope tool has to be implemented by October 1st of this year. So this book goes over how to implement it. And the Hospice Conditions of Participation book, while not a replacement for this book, talks about the intersection about meeting federal and state mandates while telling where and here to look. So it's not a two-book combo, but you kind of need both books. But what's going to happen is in 2026, you can almost guarantee that a lot of this is not going to be applicable. And the hospice conditions of participation might have changes to it. Now, this most likely will be applicable. This will be applicable. But there are certain books that I wrote, they're not going to matter anymore. So the sales of those will come down. One of the books I wrote, I didn't even bother ordering a author copy, the hospice item set, because at 9:30 of this year, September 30th, it's no longer there. So I know I spend a lot of time. I'm just looking at the recording time for this, and so thank you for being patient with me. Let's get back now to the topic of the video, which is forgiveness. So one of the people I've been helping remotely, and I don't do this for a charge, so if you hear about this, I'm not trying to convince you to buy anything. I'm not trying to convince you to buy my books. If you do, I'm grateful. If you have bought my books and you're watching this, thank you. Thank you so much. You're helping not only to encourage me to write more, but you're also helping to support my family. And so I'm grateful. But Rebecca is one of the persons I'm helping. She's given me permission to talk about her story as she is trying to be there for her dad who's on hospice. And so she'll reach out for me from time to time. And it's interesting. I was planning on talking today about forgiveness as it relates to gratitude and resilience. And I didn't see her Facebook message until after I came out of the breakfast this morning. And she says, "Is it okay for me to tell my dad I forgive him?" And the answer is yes. It's that easy. Now, I did share with Rebecca, don't jump in, like walk in, "Hi, Dad, I forgive you." You need to build up to it. And this is a sensitive case because the family, including Rebecca, is not sure if he knows he's on hospice or not. This is not a situation. Some situations, families will tell the hospice, "Don't tell my loved one they're on hospice." This is not one of those. But on the same token, even though like we'll wear badges and we'll have equipment that may have labels and so on it, I've had cases where the patient just barely glances at me. And it's not about me, so I'm just there to serve. So they're not sure if Dad knows, if her dad knows he's on hospice. So which also means he may not know to what degree how close he is to death. So I said, just be sure you can lead up to it as simple as like when you're visiting, "Hi, Dad, I just love you so much. And I just want you to know that throughout life, we all made mistakes and we did things that we didn't want to do. And I just want you to know that I forgive you for any mistake that you've done toward me. And I just love you and I'm always going to keep loving you." Now that's a gift that Rebecca plans to give to her father when she sees him next. When we choose to forgive another person, that is a gift. Freely given. Now, some of you watching this, "They've hurt me too much, I can't forgive." and I've been there. In fact, talking about forgiving and even thinking you forgave and maybe you didn't, in our discussion today, Paul and I stayed longer than the others. I was asking the question, like, how do you know you've forgiven if you thought you forgave and then all of a sudden some memories come back and you get angry and emotional and crying and whatnot? Did you really forgive? And the answer to that is yes. You just have to remind, I forgave. I'm not going back to that. Yes, I had the emotions. They're valid. But I'm not going to live in a state of grudge. I'm not going to live in a state of having a grudge and being bitter. See, the issue is when we talk about do they deserve forgiveness? If you bring that up, at the end of the day or the beginning, whatever course of time that you go by, depending on what it is, chances are high they don't deserve anything. But here's the catch. Neither did you, neither did me. I didn't deserve to wake up this morning with life. And this is a book, so the book didn't save me, but the person representing this book, Jesus Christ, he saved me. And I have salvation from something I can never earn. Oh, I don't believe in that. That's religion. That's hogwash. And while I would debate you, it's faith, not religion. You're entitled. You can have your point of view. But look at what holding a grudge does to you. Is holding a grudge causing harm to the person that we're saying forgive? Is it doing anything at all? I shared, and I'm not going to name the person's name, but I mentioned in passing in several videos, my wife and I have a stalker. This past Wednesday, and I ended up deleting the video off YouTube. My wife was crying miserably on Wednesday evening. I'm crying. And I had published a video, like I'd literally, it's cyberbullying from what was happening. And the person owns multiple guns. And there's been, even when it's not even said, there's that threat of this person's not mentally stable. If they go, like they're messaging my daughter, who's in her 30s, trying to cause all this. Anyway, I don't want to spend too much time there. But this person's very, very bitter, unbelievably bitter. And what ends up happening is if you hold on to whatever hurt somebody did to you, if you hold on to that, there's several things that happen to you that are bad, horrible, worse than whatever they did to you. Worse, yes, worse. I was molested growing up as a child. And if I were to hold on to what my adoptive father did to me and hold that against him for all my life, I'm carrying all that with me. I'm actually giving him more credit from a point of view than he ever deserved. He's actually harming me years after the fact if I carry that with me. But if I forgive him, it doesn't stop some of the emotion sometimes. It doesn't stop that when I hear about people promoting, kill those rape babies. Hey, I'm sorry. That unborn baby committed no crime. That unborn baby, was me at one point. I was innocent. So that you just two wrongs don't make a right. Now I want to turn this into a huge discussion on pro-life, but by saying I forgive you, Dad, and set proper boundaries. The gift is not, in a way, it's to them, but it's more of a gift to you. And Melissa, if you're watching this, one of my former managers, Melissa Hart, said, I'm going to write you a letter of reference. That was over a year ago. I forgive you. You didn't come through. You told me to remind you a couple months ago. I reminded you. You didn't come through. I checked in with you a few days after that. You didn't come through. But I forgive. I'm moving on. Forgiveness builds resilience, because if you don't forgive, you're going to become resentful. And when you become resentful, you become bitter. So when you hold a grudge, resent, bitterness, an unholy trinity. And that doesn't help you, and it doesn't help the people around you. I ended up deleting that video, deleting everything relating to that video that I posted Wednesday, and apologizing to my wife, and having to remind myself that I forgave the stalker, and just as I forgave my dad, just as I forgive Melissa, just as I forgive other people in my life that didn't do the right thing. This is like whatever Rebecca's dad, and I didn't ask her for details, it's not about prying. But just as Rebecca's dad did things to her that caused her to feel hurt, she's going to forgive him. Now, he's not in a position to make it up. He can't make good. He's on hospice. We don't know when. He's recovering from a very serious infection that he may not recover from, that he's had multiple times. Rebecca was asking the other day, how many times could you have X infection and make it again, make it through? And everybody's different. Sorry, Rebecca, it's not black and white. So when you forgive others and you focus on gratitude, forgiveness, showing mercy, when you show mercy to somebody, mercy's not earned. They deserve their just punishment. But you're not going to give them their just punishment. You're going to show mercy. So for me, forgiveness is an act of mercy, because they're not asking for any payment anymore. They don't have to make it right anymore. You don't even have to have closure. My adoptive father won't ever acknowledge what he did to me. The best I heard, or I did the best I can, in which, if one of the abuses was like grabbing a young boy child by their testicles, that's not the best anyone could do. Don't even go there. But you know what? If I hold on to that, now I can talk about it in passing. It doesn't mean that I'm holding it on in anger. But if I choose to hold on to that, that's hurting me. And that's changing me to be a person that is negative. One of my prayers every day is I want to be a gentle spirit. I want to be a gentle human being. I'm not an angel. There are times I'll raise my voice. I do my best not to curse, but I'd lie if I said I never curse. But I want to be gentle. I want to be uplifting and encouraging. And I encourage you to forgive, to give mercy, to forget about closure and focus on you in a way. Because when you let go, I forgive you, and you're not looking for that closure, you're not looking for them to even say, well, thank you for forgiveness for what? When you do that, and you don't even have to tell them you forgive them, you just, I forgive. And you don't go after that. And if the thoughts come up in your head, you go, no, I forgave. I'm going to put this, I'm not going to play the recorder in my head again. I'm not going to circle the drain again. I forgive. And I'm going to focus on points of gratitude. I'm going to focus on doing what is right. You will be a better person because of this. I'm not saying you will not earn your way to heaven. None of us can. But you're showing the love of the Father in heaven. Oh, I don't believe in that, Peter. Then don't believe in it, but you're going to still show love if you act that way. You're going to be a better person if you act that way. if you act in a way of what you're grateful for, like today, I went to go get this out of the library. Thank you, Martin Lewis. If you're watching this, Martin recommended that I read this book. I stopped at the library and it took them maybe 20 minutes to find the book. And I'm thinking to myself, instead of getting angry, like I got to notice you, why you're wasting my time. I got all this to do today. Like, no, I'm retired. I'm thinking about, what if somebody actually, if they ended up giving it to somebody else, they can benefit and I'll read it when they get done. So I had a smile on my face throughout the entire time, not because I'm this whatever person. It's because I give glory to God. Because God has me focusing on gratitude. God has me focusing on forgiveness. God has me focusing on mercy. Not holding a grudge, not being bitter, not being resentful, and looking to see how could I bless somebody else, not caring about what happens to me in the meantime. Because God will take care of me. I'm watching the time, and I know this is a long video, and I do thank you for watching. But if you have any questions, whether it be on gratitude or forgiveness, whether it be on anticipatory grief or grief, on hospice, whether you're a hospice patient, a caregiver, a hospice nurse, or a social worker, somebody who works in hospice, somebody who likes my books, or maybe you want to start writing your own. And I'm not saying this out there that I'm going to charge anything, but if you want to talk, hey Peter, where can I go? Because like for instance, watching the time, last couple of days, I've actually been doing hardcover versions of my already printed books, and it's literally, if you like using Canva, canva.com. I have the paid version, but like you go to the Kindle book cover tool that Amazon has for free, and you punch in the calculations. It's a hardcover book, this many pages, blah blah blah. It'll actually give you how many, what the size should be for your hardcover, and you can download a template, and you can do this in a breeze. So I'm completing the hardcover, the PDF file that goes with it in less than 5 minutes, and then creating the hardcover book in Amazon Kindle in less than 5 minutes. So in less than 15, if you add in some wiggle room, Amazon's reviewing 3 more books for hardcovers. I did 3 yesterday. And this is, you're not rewriting anything. This is not like I had to type anything over. You're using the same manuscripts. So maybe you have questions on how do I do this? There's a system that you can do it. And I don't mind sharing my system. Now, if it ever got to where I get bombarded, like there's hundreds, how do I deal with all this? There may come a point in time where I have to say, pause, I need to start charging a reasonable fee for my time. But for right now, I'm giving you permission to take advantage. I'm not doing a lot. Tomorrow I'm making a road trip to take a continuing education class thanks to the Kentucky Nursing Association. Getting up at 4 a.m. in the morning, and an hour and a half drive to northern Kentucky, and it's going to be a wonderful day. So I thank you again for watching. Thank you. God bless, and bye.